Roger?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the October 2nd, 2024 meeting of Berlin Conservation Commission. As a reminder, open session public meetings are subject to being recorded. Your voice and image will be recorded and live forever on YouTube. So, okay. First thing, review and approve minutes of the previous meetings. So our last meeting was very complicated. And I did have a couple of modifications that I would like to make to the minutes. Everything's under the conservation restriction discussion. So in section 1B, the sentence reads, both parcels of land have a conservation restriction on them, and I would like to add the word portion. So both parcels of land have a conservation restriction on portions of them.
Which one's
Just
that,
to-
Carolyn? 1B?
1B, 2/3 of the way down. Oh, yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
just to, it
Yep.
does say elsewhere that it's not on the whole property, but I just want to
Yep.
clarify that. Then 1E, it says, Chris Keefe asked how much rent is generated from Boundless Adventures. Did she really ask that?
So I guess she kind of like prompted Kristen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yep.
so that's fine, then we
Yep.
can leave that. Kristen explained that the town gets 8% of the revenue? That didn't, that doesn't,
Boundless Adventures?
yeah,
Well, when we buy it, we'll get all of it.
right, but now we get 50%.
We get 50, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, or 8% of the revenue that Boundless Venture makes, right? That's what my
Yeah.
understanding was watching the minutes. Or the meeting.
I know, well, that's why I was confused, because I'm like, I'm sure she did the minutes by watching the video.
I thought it was half.
I thought it was half
remember-
as
Yeah,
well.
so it is 50, well, currently we get 50% of whatever rent, I guess, the Sunnies get,
So
right?
the Senate,
So do they get they get 8% of the revenue? Is that
No.
their deal with the
Oh.
Boundless Adventures?
That might be what it
So we get
is.
50% of
8%
the
of
rent.
revenue.
So we get
Oh.
4% of
And we get half
currently.
of that.
right,
Okay.
okay.
That makes
Yep.
sense.
Explain that the town, let's just uncomplicate it and say the town gets half of the rent paid.
Okay, yeah.
Everybody okay with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gets half of rent, which is around $100,000 a year. And then the last thing is under M. We were talking about SBT holding the CR once ownership transfers. The sentence says, Sudbury Valley trustees are reviewing the CR and are potentially interested in holding it. They're not actually reviewing it yet.
Okay.
So we're just gonna say Sudbury Valley trustees are potentially interested in holding the CR.
Okay.
Okay. It is being a little picky, but
Nope,
this
that's
one's,
fair.
yeah, okay,
Because this has to also go to select board for their,
right,
be posted on their
yep.
minutes.
All right, so those are all my corrections. Everything else looks great.
All right.
Does anybody else have anything? Here, so I will accept a motion to approve the minutes from September 18th.
Second.
Nope,
No,
so moved.
somebody,
Somebody has to make
there
the
you go,
motion.
now you can second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we have minutes.
As a point of clarification, because I learned this the same way, she can't make a motion.
Got
She
it.
can only call for a motion, so one of us has to,
Understood.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I learned that.
Yep. Sorry.
So late in my life.
Okay, treasurer's report. Is it any different from the minutes of September 18th?
Nope.
Okay. Bills and forms.
No bills, no forms.
Love that. I'm just making a note for myself. Okay, mail and notices.
MACC's fall conference is coming up, again, so feel free to register. Again, we will pay for it using our Wetlands Protection Act funds for training. So that is Saturday, October 19th, out in Devon, so Devon's Common Center. Join, they have a lot of great courses going on. A lot of it's focused on like climate resilience and flooding, because we are seeing a lot more water. We're getting a lot more of those extreme storms, especially, the poor people down in the Carolinas that just get slammed with the
Oh,
hurricanes. So-
man. Yeah.
So,
I've got friends down there.
Yeah.
It's not good.
yep.
They're okay, but
Yeah, I have a cousin also.
yeah.
All right. Anything else?
So another thing to note was there was a Wheeler Pond discussion on September 27th. So staff from the town and from the EEA. Wait.
It was MIPA, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
MIPA, along with the project team, all met to kind of discuss.
Mass Environmental Protection Association.
Okay. Not agency. Interesting.
Or association? Might be agency.
Act, Massachusetts Environmental Protection Act.
MIPA?
Yeah.
For the agency?
Well,
For the
you-
group
you
of
said-
people?
You said MEPA.
Oh, I said, so EEA, so
Oh.
Executive Office of Energy and Environmental
Right.
Affairs
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
part of it. MIPA was a part of it.
Government just loves them some
Right.
acronyms.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the mass version of FEMA.
Yeah.
MIPA is the mass version of FEMA.
I mean, of the, of
EPA.
EPA.
That
Yeah,
makes more
sorry.
sense. Okay, that's
Sorry,
all right. I was
we
like,
were talking floods
what?
and, yeah.
Mass
No.
Environmental Policy Act, MIPA.
Right, that's what
Really?
it is. Mass
All right.
Environmental Policy Act.
Good job, Walter.
But it didn't actually create an agency or an association.
Right.
Well, that's just
You
confusing.
doubted me?
You did. I shouldn't have, but I did.
It's mortally offended.
So there's a Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act office.
Right.
Okay.
The MIPO.
Me, exactly.
MIPOW.
Yep. So you say your things about that first, and then I have some things to add.
Yep, so basically we met on the Wheeler Pond Dam removal and Northbrook restoration project, which intends to remove Wheeler Pond Dam near Pleasant Street, which is a failing dam to restore the aquatic and riparian habitat continuity along North Brook, a cold water fishery and tributary to the Assabet River. The project is currently funded by the Mass Dam and Seawall Program through June 2025 for design and permitting, so.
Yep. So, they've gotten a grant to design the removal of not the whole dam, it's just the spillways, I believe, right?
Hopefully, because that's all it needs.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal,
Yeah.
and making it out of I mean, you got the dam, and then you got Pleasant Street and two bridges, and it's basically another dam. So you take care of this one, just open a spillway, Skip Sawyer could go down there and take care of it in a day, I'm telling you, really.
I'm sure
It's
that's
just
true.
Go in there, knock a couple things out, it'll be fine.
You
Right.
would, absolutely, no
Um,
problem.
So.
But not legally.
Yeah.
but you-
Right.
Logistically, no issue.
See, we're-
Legally, big issues.
Yeah.
Government involved.
You work nights?
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Yeah.
Just do it
$2
where the
million
cupboards
before
are.
they're done.
We'll ski mask.
So anyway, I missed the meeting because I forgot to look at my calendar that day, and that night I looked at it and I was like, oh. So I emailed Sarah Winding at Interfluve, and I was like, so sorry I missed it. And she's like, it was kind of boring. If there's any to miss, this is the one to miss. They're gonna try and go for an expedited permit,
Mhm.
but I guess there's a couple of things that might be in the way about them doing that, so they're working on that. But she did mention in the email that Robin is trying to figure out what to do. So Robin Bonazzoli, who is the current property owner, current trustee, property owner. It was a family property. She now is the person responsible for the property. And asked, so once the dam is removed, the stream will go back to its 300-year ago historic path, and the land that is now underwater will be exposed. So it has come to the attention of the planning board, when the planning board was talking with them, that there is no property owner of record for the property that is underneath. So kind of trying to figure out what to do, and so Sarah did mention in the email today, would conservation be interested in the property? When planning was talking about it, we were talking about, wouldn't it be nice to have a park there? Someplace to have some lawn and benches and stuff that's not South Commons.
How big is this area gonna be?
I don't remember
I
how
can look it up on
big
my
it is,
iPhone
yeah.
app.
So
It's-
basically what you're saying is that once it drains, there's actually gonna be like.
Dry land.
Dry land that's undeeded,
It's
like
gonna be a
not
big
owned.
mud hole.
Well,
That's
For a while,
It'll be a big
for a
mud
while,
hole.
it's certainly gonna be a mud hole, yes.
It's gonna be all, water type, that was a pond, I can remember paddling around, you can't now, cause it's so silted in with muck.
Mhm.
And there's still, the original channel still goes down through and out the old spillway where the mill was, and the water wheel 150 years ago. And if that was removed, that would just take its course and go down. And if you put benches and stuff there, and have a little park, you know that's gonna happen. What's gonna happen there? Just leave it alone.
Where is this?
Down on, South Street, on South Berlin on Pleasant Street. I mean, I would
Doesn't
not,
get
it's
acres on
like a
mine.
stone's throw from Northborough.
Okay.
It's like, if you look at
Does.
that, that might place it
So-
over there.
Find the
where it's
post
at
office and just go down
very
the road.
lowest.
yeah.
Right.
Body of water.
So
Oh, I
it's,
see that, yeah.
Yeah.
it's that property,
right on the
that
town line.
property,
Yeah.
this property.
Yep.
So basically.
Oh,
if you're
no,
going
it's
to
actually
Northborough
not
via
that
back roads,
property.
like
That property
Yeah.
Pleasant Street to
is
Whitney.
owned by
Okay.
Toto.
It's on the right there.
Mr. Toto.
Right after you kinda come down that hill after the intersection with South Street and Pleasant Street. it's on the
Gotcha.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
right, so it's not that property, it's this one,
Yeah.
and then all of this. So anyway,
Saw it when I was a kid. Big,
does anybody else have an opinion besides Mr. Bickford about our level of interest in the property? That Bickford, not
Yeah, I
that
know.
Bickford.
Give it to, are they giving it to us?
I'm not entirely sure.
If they gave us more than just the the land under the pond, we don't want that.
Well, sure, we need to be able
If the land around it,
to
the
access-
shore between the road and the pond and goes and, that could connect, cause if you follow the brook up around to Crosby Road, we own a piece over there that we got from, forget the name over there, but we own 4 or 5 acres there, so that would connect that. And it's always been a great waterfowl habitat in the fall. When I was a kid, it was great pickerel fishing and everything, but it's so silted in, I don't know what's there anymore.
Right.
But, it's good fur bearer habitat, it's good habitat for
Yep.
waterfowl, water birds, stuff like that.
It is, what's the natural history designation? There's endangered habitat for critical species. Trying to remember what that designation is.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any endangered species there or anything, but it's good habitat, it's good wetland habitat for everything for waterfowls and water related. There's always red-winged blackbirds, I remember swans down there, geese, muskrats, mink, beaver. It's a great, and deer along the edges of it. So if it would make a good wildlife habitat. Okay, I'm sorry to just throw cold water on the benches and stuff, but we have beer cans, we'd be picking beer cans out of the brook if we did that. But nevertheless, it's good wildlife land habitat.
I mean, if they're just gonna give it to us.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
clear.
Yeah,
And
take
then
it.
that means that people aren't gonna, like, cause depending on how far that ends up being from the brook, like if you get outside of the, buffer zones and all that, then we get into people potentially wanting to pick it up for development and dealing with it in that case.
All the land that belongs to that is well within the 200-foot
Yeah.
buffer, and the 20-foot buffer, the pond and the buffer. So anything done down there, and I don't know, you couldn't get a leach field in there legally, I don't believe, because of the Board of Health laws that I wrote 50 years ago. But, so I don't think any development could go on there
Right,
anyway.
but-
So if we could get it for habitat, fine.
Right, so once the pond drains, I'm not entirely.
Say that again?
Once the pond is drained.
Yeah.
I'm not, obviously the setbacks are going to become smaller.
That's what I was getting at.
It's from the running water, correct.
Yes, yes.
But it's still, I mean, the pond itself is just unbuildable, and then it's wetlands, so you then we have our wetlands buffer. But on the other side of the pond, where there used to be a big ice house, they carved ice there before the turn of the last century. And, the old stone abutments are still there when I was a kid. But there's something could be done there. That's where the junkyard was, and Bonasoli had
And the
all this
dynamite was
stuff
stored?
there. Huh?
And the dynamite was stored?
And the dynamite was stored
Yeah.
there, right. Something could happen over there.
Yeah, right,
Let's see if we
so,
can get it.
Yeah, I agree with Ethan, like, if we can get it for nothing, let's just take it and we don't need a
And-
plan for it.
right.
Right.
One thing that came up in that meeting was if they can remove that dam and get the water to flow naturally, then it's no longer a cold water resource. Trout can't exist in it because that water backs up and the sun heats it up and
The way it is
it's
now.
uninhabitable by trout. But
Right.
they think that one of the little tributaries off of that North Brook, somewhere just upstream from that, they did actually find native brook trout. So they're hoping that that can,
It can be restored.
There are
It
Yeah.
brook
has a-
trout in my backyard.
yeah.
Yeah,
Which is upstream of that.
yep.
That gets into a weird kind of sticky wicket, like does it become worth it at that point to try to dredge it a little bit to return it closer to what its natural state was, or, but then you're dredging.
You're dredging, and that's, you're then getting into EPA, and like the permitting to dredge can take years.
I'm trying to remember, cause I remember she came in front of us, what was the impetus for all this? Did she initiate this, or did they come to her? I don't
There's
remember
a
how this
dam
came about.
safety, the state has a dam
Yeah,
safety
I
group,
do remember that.
which I held hearings and formed back in 2070, 2081, and, 20.
Yeah, 1981?
2080,
Yeah,
something
there
like
you
that,
go.
1981.
Yeah.
And we held hearings all over the
Year I
darn
was
place,
born.
so they put up a dam. I was head of the dam safety committee. Exactly. So we held here, and they come up with this long dam report and about the dams, and so that's where it came from.
Right, I know, we're gonna have to
Now we
bleep,
know
we're
that.
gonna have to keep bleep you out. Right,
See the minutes
so.
after
So some years ago, maybe even like 10 years ago now, that dam was designated a hazard.
Right.
In imminent, that it would fail at some point. So the dam was lowered and the water level in the pond was lowered, with permission from the state, but it's been an ongoing thing, trying to get them as the property owners, trying to do what needed to be done, but it's so expensive. And then there was some family stuff that needed to be worked out, and that all got worked out, and now Robin has hired a company in Cambridge, Interfluve, to help her work through the process. So, and she applied for and received a grant for the design of the removal of the dam. So at this point, that's still where it is. Yeah.
So the grant is for the design work, not for the removal?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, so it's, you know, it's gonna be some time. We're not talking Springtown meeting or
Yeah.
anything, but, you know, I just wanted to get a read on what our interest level is before I continue talking with her.
Her father, Perino, had a much wiser approach to it. He denied he owned it.
Yeah.
There's a strategy.
Then he died, so they went out, but he died, so then she ended up with it. She didn't have the push to.
Well, yeah, I mean, that does kind of beg the question, if there's no, like, ownership of the land under it, how did she get saddled with
Because she
this?
owns the land around it. And that's where the dam is.
You would think that if you own the land around it, it would be implied that you own the land under it.
One would think, but, you know, and like I said, I mean, there's been, you know, talking with Tim Wheeler, his family ran a sawmill on that property, which was why it was dammed to begin with, I believe, for a long time, you know, so it hasn't been, it hasn't run free for a long time, like hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Just anybody interested in history, in fact, I'll tell you back in the 40s, late 40s, early 50s, you went down that hill, there were logs piled up. You had to drive behind Pleasant Street down through the logs. The mill was on the right. And there were 4 or 5, Sid Wheeler, Bill's father owned it, and Arthur Kent, and I'll think of the other, anyway, they all worked in the mill, but across the street was a big sprawling building with all kinds of molding and planing machines with these overhead shafts and big wheels and turning and
That must have been
planing,
so cool.
they made window sash, they made everything. And during the war, they had a big, apparently, that was before my time, they had a big thing to build boxes for the military, and they used to do that, but I remember going in there and the planing mills going, and the scraps would come out, and they sawdust, and I mean, it was a rip-roaring operation. It was a
Bet.
real
Yeah,
industrial operation.
yep,
And then, Sid went bankrupt or something, and Bonazzoli bought it, Perino Bonazzoli and Brothers. And they had it for years, and they ran the sawmill. I remember him running the mill. The boards would come out crooked and shaped like shingles, but nevertheless, they sawed. And, they had it for a while, and then he's the one that started the junk car place on the other side, and then, so that's where it all went down. But the dam was condemned because of safety factors, not because of contamination or anything like
Yep.
that, you know?
yeah, just disrepair. Okay, well, that's good
Little bit of
information, yeah, yep. Yeah, Tim's got a whole bunch of history too. That was the other thing we were talking about, is maybe putting up some sort of plaque or something
Absolutely.
about the history, and honestly, that's one of the things that may mess up the expedited permitting process. So we
His-
may have to do that after the fact or
Oh,
something.
history,
Yeah,
yeah,
because it's a big part of Breland's history.
right.
Which is a very cool thing. All right. That's it for mail?
Yep.
Maplewood, nothing. I haven't even seen any new earth
Yeah.
importation emails, no. Highland Ridge,
Same old story.
same old, nothing.
Mulch. Yep, mulch.
Yeah.
It's still there too.
Yep.
You know, Phil and I went out there to review all that, and it's still there. There is some vegetation starting to pop through that mulch, in particular, a variety of cypress tree that I'm not familiar with, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Dozens of them, because that mulch must have been ground up from,
Cypress.
yep.
That's,
There must have been some cones in it. You can see bits of pine cone in there.
Wow,
Is it native?
So where would that come from?
no,
I can look on my app after I get done talking, but I can't do both. I recorded it I have an app that anyway, there's a little bit of silt fence here and there too, and I didn't talk to anybody there. Phil and I assessed that it can probably go now, cause it's all vegetated around it.
right, that's,
Right below the spillway, it might not hurt to have another pair of eyes, maybe, or,
ask Pat to
Pat,
specifically
yeah,
look
Pat
at
Warner?
it.
Garner,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember my name now. We might ask him to just give that one more look, just for another pair of eyes. but
Okay, so on the other side of,
Downstream from that block, which is the spillway.
right, on the other side of the
Right,
berm.
right where there's some reinforced silt fence down there, they put in the stuff with the wire
Yep.
mesh. But I don't know, of course, we haven't had any rain to prove anything, but I don't know that any amount of rain with the 2 6-inch outlets,
Mhm.
and the overflow, of course, but I don't think it's gonna wash away now. That's pretty robust vegetation that's down in that area, and I kinda felt like it could come out, but another pair of eyes wouldn't hurt.
Sure, yep, yeah, I mean, we can ask Pat the next time he does go out to assess the removal of, are you thinking all the silt fence?
There's not much left.
Right.
That's
Yes,
just
so all the
about it.
remaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, right, cause there's this in the front of the retaining
Yep.
pond as well.
Yep. And that can go, that's all
Yeah,
filled in, so.
okay.
yeah.
So will you do that, will you?
Yep.
It's
Okay.
the one down below that we were just a little uncertain about,
Okay,
and,
yeah, cause I'd like to see it out before they forget about it,
yeah, and may as well come out before the snow flies,
yeah,
be easier.
yep.
Yep, so I can reach out to Pat, and I did reach out to Highland Ridge again when Pat sent out the most recent monitoring report, asking if
What are you
they
gonna do
had
about
any
that?
plans.
Yeah.
No response
I'll
at all.
look that up now.
Pat did ask me, he's like, have you heard anything? I was like, no,
No.
no, so.
Hopefully I can find those.
Right, so, okay. There's that, CSX,
No
That's-
updates, that's
okay.
pretty much,
that's pretty much
Good,
done,
yep.
right? Should we take some action to close out that enforcement order?
yeah, so we can just issue them letters saying, you know, they did everything
Good
that
job,
they needed to do.
thanks.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for responding, so.
Yeah, like, if you could do that.
Yep.
That would be great. River Road West, still status quo. We're gonna go back in the spring, I believe.
Yeah.
To see how the planting, went. No appointments, no hearings? How do we manage that? No new business, right?
Right,
No, so old business, oh yeah. Walters.
yeah. Yep, so, DEP kind of overturned the, determination of applicability that we issued for, Burn Lane Meadows. So they
For
would like us.
Walters Culvert, really? Yeah.
Yep, so they would like us to file a notice of intent, even a retroactive one.
Yeah, well, you know, just let me comment on it, cause
Yeah.
it's kind of my fault. I mean, that brook would dry in June, July, well, not June, late June, July, through August. Yeah, it was in June, and it dries every year, so it's a,
Yeah,
intermittent stream.
yeah.
Now, I didn't document it. It would come out legally as an intermittent stream. I don't know, some of you may remember that fiasco on Crosby Road where that guy came in and voted, you know, it was just, boy, that, anyway, even though, and that, I've never seen that stream dry, but nevertheless, so that was all right. So we went ahead and did it. And, I got skipped, all we did, it was all rocks. There was no silt, there was no mud, there was no sand, there was just rocks and stuff. So, as you can see in that first picture, turn it back in, that's all it was. So we picked up that rock, twisted it this way, and I by hand, everything I did by hand. And there was no digging or anything like that. and built the walls back underneath it. It's a narrow culvert, but when I grew up with culverts in fields and driving horses over them and everything else, and all culverts are made for haying season, so if it gets underwater in the spring, that's all, it's an ancient colonial culvert, more or less. So it isn't gonna block the stream. There are no silt. The only thing I hauled in was 5 gallon buckets of 2-inch stone, once we built the twisted and laid the rocks out there. Another 4 or 5 gallon buckets, all gallon buckets of gravel, and then probably 4 or 5 gallon buckets of loam, spread it out. And, you know, the water you see there isn't running. It sits there. And anyway, that's what it was. So if I looked at the map and saw that it was designated as a regular, I would have documented it, but I never gave it a second thought. But
Yeah.
it was
This was
all
also-
done the next day after we had our meeting.
Yeah, this was
great.
actually right after that rainstorm that you guys had like, what, 2 weekends ago, where it just rained
Yeah.
all day Saturday?
Yep.
And I went out Sunday, so that's probably why there's as much water
Yep.
as there is.
It's dry today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I was down there a
Yeah,
little while ago.
so it might be worth us documenting it too, like going out,
Yeah.
taking, I think you need 4 days of consecutive just dryness.
I think it's 3, actually.
just
Like,
confirm that it's- so it might be
ridiculously
worth-
small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
proving to DEP like, hey, it's it is
Yep.
in.
Well, it was
but-
dry all the time we were working on it,
Yeah.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. There was
Yeah.
no water in it.
Yep.
no.
Yep.
So I think the biggest thing that DEP said is that they want us to spread some New England wetlands mix.
Yep.
Which isn't a bad idea.
Yep.
Except that we have to buy it and,
And close the trail for a bit to allow the seed
Right.
to establish. Walter did install wattles along the edge, after the fact. It's not in this photo, but he showed me.
Yeah,
Yep.
I put, I did grass seed it, but
Mhm.
it isn't wetlands up top there, it's dry. I don't know if the wetlands, you know, on some of this, let me just say on this one, you know, there is state laws are built, and I voted for all this stuff when I was in the legislature, and it's a good thing. But there's also what they call local control and local input and little judgment. And so there is a little flexibility there. They want to, what kind of wetlands? It isn't wet, you know, so up on top where I put the loam, but nevertheless, if you want, we'll get some. Oh, by the way, I forgot the receipt for that wattle, which cost me $37, so I'll bring that next time.
okay? Yeah, so the,
I'll get some wetland seed, I don't know where Wick, I don't know.
well, so there's one place you can get it.
Where?
It's out in Western Mass. We have the name of the
Yep.
place.
Yeah.
And you have to buy a minimum of like 5 pounds.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, it's,
Do they ship?
I believe they ship, yes.
You don't think Fred would have
Yep.
some?
I, probably not, but it certainly would, although, I wonder if he bought some when they did the work over on,
On Peach Hill Road.
on Peach Hill Road.
Oh, beauty.
Might be worth asking him
Yeah.
if he's got a couple handfuls.
I'll ask Fred. I called him on the wattles, and the wattles that they had, they were all, so I had to go buy a new one.
Okay. Yeah, so, that was really the biggest thing.
Yep.
Other than like no heavy equipment and like they had some things about how they wanted the work done, which is all passed.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But it looks great, good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
It's really
we
good.
definitely opened it
Um,
up compared to what it was. So
yeah.
Honestly, it's a vast improvement. of whatever
Incidentally,
was
that,
there.
yeah, well, we'll talk about something else on that a little later, on our
So you're gonna,
trail
you
maintenance.
don't have the filing prepared?
I do not, so I'm
That's
gonna
fine.
work on that. I figured, is it acceptable to file it through the town? I'll probably have to get Kristen to sign off on it. File it as a town
sh-
of Berlin. I don't know, is it acceptable to file as a conservation commission to the conservation commission? There's like a weird gray
Right,
area
if
on
we
that
can
one.
file it as the commission,
Yeah,
let's do that.
okay.
Cause it
If
is our
not-
land, right?
Yeah.
Commission?
Yeah. Yep. Okay,
And
yeah,
then we don't
so
have to pay the
see-
filing fees if it's us. versus
Right.
Just one of us, yeah.
Right.
So that
and-
you wouldn't see this as just maintenance on trail maintenance.
I would see it as trail maintenance.
Yeah.
Seems like trail maintenance to me.
That's what it
but-
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
That's all right.
Yep, I think the issue is more just, there's a resource area involved, so the fact that it isn't classified as an intermittent stream means there's land under, bodies of water and bank that
That-
was affected by this repair,
Yep.
Okay.
where,
Well, the effect was a net positive
Oh, boy.
effect.
That-
yeah,
That was
Yeah,
that was a
Um,
hazardous crossing.
yep, yep.
Jeez. Way
Yeah, I
back.
know, Heather's gonna be thrilled next year.
Mhm.
yeah, it's beautiful, the crossing is nice and stable and
Yep.
looks great.
So, only because it's my job to ask the applicant, the, 4x4s and the round posts and stuff, those have been removed?
I'll take those out of there, yeah. I was gonna just simply build over the mess there originally, and I decided the heck with it, we'll do it right, so I just used the existing stones, and I'll get those out of there.
Okay.
Any concern about that stone getting slippery though, when it's wet?
Tough luck.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it might,
Yeah.
but
But
not
it's-
any
it's
more
better
or less
than-
slippery than it would
than
have
crossing
been
that.
as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Fair enough.
It's
And-
really
And it's
draining.
flat and
Okay.
stable now.
Yeah.
You got stone coming out of the old town hall steps, the granite steps
Oh,
all over the
geez.
place, that's
Yeah.
all right.
When you do pull those logs out, talk to Ethan, because we have another place, another bridge that needs to be repaired,
Yep.
that Ethan will talk about, but,
Got it.
okay, so, when you have the retroactive NOI done,
Yep.
I think we still have to hold a hearing
You
and
gotta
do
hold a
all that.
hearing, notify abutters, do all that, so it's probably gonna be not till November.
Okay.
That it's actually on the agenda, so.
Okay.
What if we verify that
butts.
it's actually intermittent?
I mean, I think they still want them.
Right,
the
yeah, I
filing,
mean,
but-
it's not gonna be
Yeah.
that, it's more just jumping through the hoops.
Yeah,
I got that.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yep.
yep.
yep, and then
It's
they
one of the
also,
few decisions they've ever overturned, though.
yeah. I think
Take
part
it
of the
as
issue
our
too
own
was,
land.
like, I didn't submit it to them, so they got the RDA and the DOA in the same email, and they were just like, what the hell?
Right.
And I was like, I'm
Oops.
sorry, I meant to do this sooner, or I thought I did, but, yeah,
Okay.
yep. Now we know, and there's also a 10-day appeal period from when we issue the DOA before we can start work too, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Oops.
Lesson learned.
I forgot.
Yeah, damn. Now it's all
Wasn't there gonna be a retroactive NOI for that property on Marlboro Road?
Yep.
Whatever happened
I
with
don't
that?
know, they've reached out to us, and then.
Yeah, I would
nothing.
reach back out,
Yeah,
cause
one
it's
on the
gotta be
corner?
about the trees.
Yeah.
That they cut down,
Yep.
yeah,
The one on the corner?
yeah.
Mhm.
What is that?
You-
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't
I
wanna
don't-
open up that can of worms
Okay.
again.
61 Lancaster Road.
I did reach out to them, I haven't heard anything back, I actually talked to Scott today, but it was about a Worcester thing, but I should
Okay.
have asked him about Lancaster.
All right, well, moving right along. Nothing about land acquisition, land management, 72 Carter Street, CR. What we're all
Yeah.
so excited about.
AKA Powder House Hill.
Yep,
Yes. Yeah,
or
so.
actually should be changed.
Right.
Fully changed to Powder House Hill, and for now on will be on the agenda.
Yeah.
It's Powder House.
Well, and on the CR.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of my, edits,
You don't
was
know.
that we can't call it 72 Carter Street anymore.
Well, you're welcome.
Is that just for clarification or because it's not technically the address?
Well, so the property did
House Hill.
have a house on it, and it was, it's 72 Carter Street. When this happened, the house was subdivided off of the property, so the house is still 72 Carter Street, but the property is no longer associated with that owner.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And we're calling it Powder House Hill. Okay, so that was, my cat spilled water on my copy. But it had all my notes on it, so.
Your cat sounds
I-
almost as helpful as my cat.
Yeah, I was
I love her.
kinda pretty annoyed, actually. And it's funny too, cause I walked out of the room and I saw the glass of water sitting there and I'm like, oh, it'll be fine.
Which is a sure sign that something's gonna happen.
Sure, yep, yes, indeed, okay. My next edit. What did I mean by that? Let me see if I can follow it on here. Oh, right, so just, in section 2, permit requirement,
Yeah.
conservation restriction is required by CPA.
Okay.
Yeah, and whatever additional words we wanna add there. Then, under public access, so the part that's in gray here is kinda like suggested wording by them, that's what I
page is
thought. 2. So, grayed out, it says enter activities, for example, passive outdoor recreation, education, nature study. So I think, passive non-motorized recreation. And we can keep education and nature study in there if, cause that'll be allowed, should anybody wanna do that. And then at the very bottom of page 2, but going over to page 3, so these are prohibited acts and uses. It says, the grantor will not perform nor or allow others to perform the following acts and uses which are prohibited on, above, or below the premises. Structures and improvements, constructing, placing, or allowing to remain any temporary or permanent structure, including, without limitation, any building, tennis court, landing strip, mobile home, swimming pool, asphalt or concrete pavement, gravelled road, sign, fence, gate, billboard, or other advertising, antenna, utilities, other structures, utility pole, tower, solar panel, solar array, conduit line, septic, or wastewater disposal system, tank, or dam. So, CPA does wanna put a sign at the street saying that, this project funded by Community Preservation Act. So, I don't know if we leave the sign there, but allow very specifically that sign, under the allowed uses. So I'm not really sure the best way to handle that. We had talked about allowing green energy, but certainly not solar panels or solar arrays, so I think that should stay, but that's something else that we should keep an eye out for about how we word it. And then conduit.
So I guess what was in mind then, if you weren't gonna do solar?
Well, what we did at Pisgah is, and we should look up the CR for Pisgah and maybe copy that language more closely.
Yep.
Basically, as technology develops, they now have wind generators that are a stick that wiggle.
So in that case, should we remove things like conduit and utility pole if we wanna be able to?
Right, so that was where I was going next.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and lower down in that on page 7, at the bottom of that top paragraph, it says that let's see, while it is agreed that some power may be fed back into the public power grid during high production periods, such green energy structures shall be limited to a capacity not higher than that necessary to meet or exceed by up to 20% at the time of installation the power requirements of the permitted acts and uses, which means it's only designed to
Power anything
power anything
there.
on site.
Right,
that's-
Okay.
which
Nice.
is
So,
not,
which is nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, the only, like, I can't even, I'm not even sure what that would be unless we put in like a parking lot light.
well, except, so the only thing that we promised the town,
Or
and
a
I think
wellhead.
is a well, exactly.
That could be actually decent
So,
power.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, would we want to allow some sort of very minimal passive wind collecting, solar, whatever? I don't think solar would work on that site. We may wanna
You-
just
you
not
mean,
say
yeah.
solar, but say wind. To power a well, which brings me back to conduit, does, like,
Do we get to like, I don't know, like, can we open it up and let them propose what they want and then be like, okay, yeah, this plan sounds good, or nay, like, cause it depends on what they wanna do.
It certainly, and we do want to make sure that whatever we allow doesn't destroy what we're trying to save,
Yeah,
right? So we
Yeah,
can definitely
exactly.
put language in about that,
yeah,
you know, in keeping with the spirit of the conservation restriction kind of thing. But we want to be careful about disallowing things that will actually make that work
Possible.
and possible.
Right.
Exactly. So,
cause they would need to be able to put in ostensibly, I mean, if it's just for a well, then you're still gonna need conduit, just to
Right.
get power to the well,
Yep.
whether you have solar or not.
right.
And then you're gonna need, if you put in solar, I would assume that,
Well, let's say wind.
Yeah.
sure, I was thinking solar on the pump house, if there's a pump house. Or some kind of water.
Right.
You know, like treatment house or whatever, like some kind of utility building.
Right.
That they may need to construct to service that, which might be able to be off the CR, it might not, I don't know what the,
Our whole property will be covered with the CR.
Well, I was gonna say, is there an existing well there, or?
No.
Okay.
And we don't even know where they would put it. So we can't even like, you know,
Yeah.
like carve out a little spot for it, cause we could carve out a spot right now and they'd be like, if only they had done it 10 feet further
Yeah.
to the left.
Can we allocate a generic portion of it, or do we have to have it mapped out exactly where we would exclude for a well? Like, could we say
I
100 by
believe we
100
would,
area?
right now, I believe we would have to say, right here,
Okay,
the well could go if we were gonna try and carve something out.
okay.
So I just wanna be careful that whatever, I mean, all of these things are disallowed except for this one very specific use.
right?
And I'm not really sure
Well,
the
because,
best way to do that.
you've got the well, which is gonna need power. So you've
Yep.
got conduit and then the well drilling, and, I mean, that's, once it's done, it's
Sure.
just a.
Yep, it's that day that it's,
Yeah.
You gotta pipe the water somewhere, you gotta.
Yeah, well,
pipe-
yeah, and you gotta,
Right.
you
And
gotta
then-
pipe
this
for the water.
This excludes line,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't say power line, it doesn't say water line.
right,
It also excludes utilities, which I would guess that would,
I would think that the way to do this, and I'm not a lawyer by any stretch, but would be to say something about, you know, all these restrictions remain with the exception of buildings, utilities, you know, and necessary structures, for allowing this thing that we're allowing the town to do, you know,
Right.
put in a wellhead.
right, this very one specific thing.
And
Yeah.
based on approval from the commission, so that we still have like, you know,
Yep,
okay, you can do
oversight.
it, but we wanna be able to talk about where it's gonna go and come up with something that's gonna work for everybody.
Yep,
Cause until we know what they wanna do, like, we can't place the
Yeah.
wellhead, they might not be able to put it someplace that we like, because it won't work otherwise, and stuff like that, you know, so it's like, I think we need to kinda leave it a little open-ended,
yes.
so that we can discuss when the construction actually, or when planning is happening.
Yeah, yes. Right, so, and maybe, right, maybe we, since we all agree that that is what it should say, we go through the rest of the document, see if there's any other changes, and then we talk to town council about the best way to make sure that the very specific use that we want to allow is allowed,
Yep,
but nothing, not the other things,
right.
not for other things.
Yep.
Well, look at number 2 then. I mean, we just went through number 1, but it
Right,
says.
mining, excavating, dredging, withdrawing, or removing soil,
Groundwater.
loam, peat,
Groundwater,
groundwater, right, exactly.
Groundwater.
So, but again, you know, we can cross that out.
Yep.
I mean, the thing is, that if you phrase it right, you don't even have to cross that out. You just say, you know, with the exception of
Right.
article blah at the end, you know, or addendum
Right.
A
Yeah,
at the
actually,
end
and
of this
maybe
document.
that's where we do it, is at the very beginning,
Either at the very beginning or the very end, just, you know,
right,
like any place where it mentions construction in any way, shape, or form, we just say, with the exception of article
Yeah.
A at the beginning or end of this document.
right.
And then we spell out exactly what the town wants to do,
Mhm.
and then just, you know, or approximately what the town wants to do. And then, you know, upon approval from the commission.
Yeah,
So that
'cause
we
ba-
still have kind of, not veto rights to not have it happen, but just like a, you know.
Yeah,
some
oversight.
Oversight of where
Yep.
it goes and how it's done.
Yep.
Cause all of these things like have a piece of that, like, you know, cutting trees, all that, you know, so like, we're gonna need to do some of that probably to get that work done, so.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why I'm trying to leave it
Yeah.
open-ended, is because just, okay, we end up having to put a wellhead at like the, you know, absolute ass end of the thing.
Mhm.
Pardon my French.
That would be super sad.
I work in construction, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it would be super sad, I'm not
Yeah.
arguing that for a second,
Yeah.
but if that's the only place where you can do a wellhead, then we either have to get permission from, you know, an abutter to, you know, for
Go through
right
their-
away to go
right.
through their property to do it, or we have to make access for a well drilling rig to get through the entire property.
Right,
Which would be terrible,
sure.
but there it
Yes,
is.
it would. Yeah, yes. But I like putting something like, I like it at the beginning, cause it's like, here's all the things, except for this, here's all the things,
Yeah.
yeah. Right, and CPA sign. Okay. Yeah, so other than that, I mean, this is all very boilerplate things that you can't do. If there's anything anybody wants to see added, or taken out specifically, but,
I'm me, so I'd like to see biking added to the permitted activities.
well, but it's not it's a non-motorized recreation, so yes, it can.
Unless
it
it's
would be allowed.
specifically, it's not specifically mentioned in the activities.
Okay,
In the outdoor passive recreational and educational activities, hunting, trapping, hiking, horseback riding, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, ice skating, nature observation, nature.
what number are you?
Page 5.
Number
and
9 on page 5. And then somebody was asking about, are we allowing horseback riding?
Yes,
and-
me, I said I want that in there.
Right.
Well, it's already in there.
I know it's in there,
Yeah.
but then.
Yeah.
Don't bring it up,
wanted
then
to-
somebody might say no.
But then somebody says, are we? Well, I'm like.
Oh,
Right.
that was me asking the question. Are we?
Oh,
Hello?
oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
okay.
I mean, they can try to ice skate up there.
Yep.
We can all point and laugh.
Right, so,
I mean, there are some years.
yeah, but you're ice skating downhill.
It's a new
It's more
sport.
fun that way.
Yeah.
Standing luge.
Right, standing luge.
It's a terrible idea.
Now for biking,
Okay.
do you specify non-motorized biking, or do you say mountain biking? Do you say biking?
Right, well, it's, so the whole non-motorized, yeah.
E-bikes are.
And that
E-bikes.
E-bikes. Gets complicated with e-bikes
Controversial.
Yep.
because, I mean, I've seen white papers that have talked about like whether or not e-bikes are actually more damaging to a trail than regular bikes, and they're not. So-
Actually, I was researching e-bikes,
Yeah.
and the Massachusetts rule for public trails is they're prohibited unless they are expressly permitted. In other words, they're not permitted anywhere
Right.
unless the trail
Specifically.
Express-
some
says okay.
expressly permits e-bikes.
Oh.
That's in
Okay.
And they're
Massachusetts.
limited to,
Sounds like it.
I think, 15 miles per hour.
Hmm.
I think it was 15.
20?
Might be 20.
I thought
I
it
think
was
it's
20.
20 because there's
There were,
there's
15
class
is
1,
pretty
2, and
slow.
3 bikes, and class 1 and 2 are basically the same. One of them has a throttle and one of them doesn't, and they
Mhm.
both hit 20.
okay.
And then a class 3 bike will hit, I think has pedal assist with no throttle up to 25,
Mhm.
I think, or maybe 28.
Yeah, I think it might have been
It was
20. I
probably,
was-
yeah, it would have been 20 because that would fit within the, I mean, it should be 20 because that
Yeah.
fits in the current classifications.
Okay.
Anyway,
Uh,
yeah.
So
I
it-
honestly, I would like to see e-biking allowed as well.
It's
but
not a
that-
big enough property to die on Powder House
Right,
Hill.
bike is a road, prove anything.
Mumble, 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 what?
I-
Keep 'em out of it.
Keep everybody but yourself out of there, Walter. I wanna go hunting.
You right, I wanna go hunting there.
It's
Right,
fine.
so,
You're right.
so you get
I will-
hunting, you
sure.
get biking, and you get horses.
It's
And I-
8 acres.
And I get no motors, so,
Good.
okay?
It's 8 acres, that's all it's up to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, it's not a big enough piece of property to do that. Okay, so we're gonna allow vegetation management, storm happens, invasives, blah, blah. Well, very specifically invasives on the next paragraph. So I have a question mark next to number 3, composting. Stockpiling or composting stumps, trees, brush, limbs, or similar biodegradable materials originating on the premises, providing that such stockpiling and composting is in locations where the presence of such activities will not impair the conservation values, including scenic values of the CR. No such activities will take place closer than 100 feet from any wetland, water body, or stream. All exercise of this reserved right shall take into account sensitive areas and avoid harm to nesting species during nesting season. Why would we allow that?
The only thing I can think of is an initial trail clearing, and even then, like, usually that stuff just goes right off to the side of the trail.
Which is what this is
We're not
talking about.
stockpiling or composting.
No, you wouldn't be stockpiling or
Intentional,
composting,
yeah.
you just put it just to the side of the trail and let it decompose.
Right,
there.
you're not making piles
Yeah.
Correct.
in a place.
Yeah, the only reason I can think of why we would allow that would be is somehow connected to the construction
well.
that's gonna happen.
Right.
So I think we wanna leave that in there, but that's the only time we would use it anyway.
Right,
And the only people that would be doing it would be either people working on the well or people working on trails.
right.
So we weren't gonna do that anyway.
Yeah. I don't like it.
If you wanna
but-
take it out and then just add it into the
What do you wanna take out, Carolyn?
the exception part.
Compost, the allowance of stockpiles and stumps.
You could make it temporary.
Sure, and like during construction, you need to make a pile, but then it needs to come out of there.
I'm
Do you know in wildlife management, brush piles are considered good wildlife habitat?
Brush piles, and I guess that's, so maybe what I'm thinking of when I read this is more than a brush pile. And maybe that's not accurate.
Where would it be generated from?
Right, well, that's,
It's gotta come off the property, right? It says right in it that it has to come off the property.
right,
Yep.
So
I
the
think it's a
only,
non-issue. I can't imagine.
I can't,
Alright.
like, that's the
Yeah.
thing, is like, I get what you're saying and your concern, but like, I'm not coming up with the circumstances in which it would be an issue, except for during construction of the wellhead, potentially.
right,
And even then, as long as we manage it properly, it'll be fine,
right.
so.
All right.
Cause if somebody's stockpiling, making a compost pile out of stuff on the property, we have other problems anyway.
Right, right. That is true.
That are very enforceable.
Yeah,
So,
yep. Natural habitat and ecosystem improvement, nothing there for me. Archaeological investigations, they allow this on all CRs. So, trails. So maintaining and constructing, just kind of give some basic, conducting routine trail, maintenance of trails, which may include widening trail corridors up to 6 feet in width overall, and treadway up to 3 feet wide, new trails with prior written approval of the grantee, constructing new trails or relocating existing trails will be allowed. Trail features, with prior written approval of the grantee, constructing bog, bridging, boardwalks, footbridges, railings, steps, culverts, benches, cribbing, contouring, and other features, together with the use of motorized equipment to construct such features. So actually, here's signs that are allowed. So constructing, installing, maintaining, and replacing signs and informational kiosks with respect to the permitted acts and uses and purposes, the conservation value, trespass, public access, identity and address of the grantor, sale of the premises, the grantee's interest in the property, boundary, and trail markings, any gift, grant, or other applicable source of support for the conservation of the premises. So that covers the CPA sign, so we're good there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, actually,
Yep.
what my note was, can we have just an instructional or educational kiosk?
Yep,
Essentially,
Yep.
that's,
yep,
I hadn't gotten that far.
yep.
So,
Uh,
sounds good.
And then motor vehicles would be allowed for forestry, public safety, individual transportation vehicles necessary for the mobility of persons with physical limitations or disabilities, and for the purpose of installing wells. Oh, look at that. Maintenance, repair, and other replacement of the wells. I mean, I think you kinda have to keep that in there.
Mhm.
So then this is where we're adding the word biking.
Hunting's already included, so Walter's covered.
I would like to see trapping crossed off,
Well, no.
but I know. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna have the fight, I'm just saying. Okay. Forestry management, so I assume we want to allow the property to be managed under forestry, should we, in some future scenario, decide that,
Yeah, I think we should.
yep. Okay, and then the requirement of a forest stewardship plan. Well, so this is interesting. So I think, before any forestry activities occur, we have to have a plan. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep. I crossed out C, harvesting for personal use.
That's different than taking trees that fell on the ground, right? This is expressly cutting.
Correct, right. Yeah, if the town decided they wanted to use the oak that was there to build Peg a new desk. No.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on taking
Brought you
that
all
out.
this candy
Yeah.
and everything.
Reserved rights for wells. Did you put that in there?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Where did this thing about the wells come from? Is it, somebody feel there's a need for a well? or-
Yes. I have been informed by several people in town government that water in the center of town is questionable.
Quality wise?
Yeah, and just, access to it, yes.
Really?
Yep.
Well, at one time, they were not
Yeah,
using
it
any
is.
of the water in the parish, the First Parish Church.
Right,
Oh, it's still not potable?
Right.
it's still not potable,
You
right,
can't go in the building anyway right now.
yeah.
Oh, really? What's going on there?
The steeple
They
ones
found
are
a
full.
crack in the steeple,
Ooh.
yeah. Yes,
Is it non-potable because of the well or because of piping in the building? Or do we not know?
It's been non-portable for years. I know that there's issues with, because you've got the placement where it is, you've got 1870 drawing off of it, you have Mrs. Lindsay on it too, but it has been
An issue.
an issue for years, and this is what happens.
Gotcha. Everybody keeps on passing the buck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so, you know, and even if, let's say, that all got sorted somehow, 1870 doesn't have enough space on their property to install their own well,
Yeah.
you know, so,
So the town opened a
The
water
fun
department
never
for that.
stops.
right?
The fun never stops.
Right, okay, so let's read the language that's here. Reserved rights for wells. The grantor reserves an exclusive and perpetual right and privilege to construct, install, operate, maintain, repair, and replace groundwater wells. A perpetual right from time to time to construct, install, operate, maintain, repair, and replace new groundwater wells. A perpetual right to construct, install, operate, maintain, repair, and replace lines, mains, and conduits required to take water from wells.
Would there be more than one well?
Oh, that is a very good point. Good job, Lexi.
What
The what?
How many wells are we gonna allow?
I didn't hear that. Oh, you know what?
How many wells are we going to allow?
Oh,
Is there a reason we
'Cause-
wouldn't just say a
yeah.
well?
Right.
I don't think we're gonna go in there and spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to drill more wells than we need.
Sure, but how many do they need?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if they need 20?
Yeah, what if they wanna start a water department and service all of Berlin?
We don't want that.
Right. Okay.
There is a lot of
I
road
don't know
access
the
to
answer to
property.
that, but, so I think that's probably something for town council. But I'm going to write a note, that we need to, again, we need to allow what the town is asking us to allow while limiting it to a
Confined
sane
area.
and rational
Yeah.
amount. How to limit size of well. Okay,
It's like buildings on the-
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's like Steve Pine, I think, if I remember correctly.
okay, now we get to green energy. With prior written approval of the grantee, constructing energy-producing structures and associated transmission lines that produce negligible or no pollution or carbon emissions, AKA green energy structures, to supply power for any of the permitted acts and uses on the premises, so that covers power for the well.
Yeah.
In addition to the terms of paragraph 3E, which is where? 3E is prohibited and permitted. 3, well, they're not lettered, they're numbered. So what does this mean?
No,
No,
there,
so
there are
that'd be on
letter,
page
it's
8.
further along.
Yeah, that page 8,
Um,
notice and approval.
Yeah, notice and approval, page 8.
Okay. All right. So, in addition to the terms of paragraph 3E, when considering whether to grant approval, the grantee will take into consideration the energy needs related to the relevant permitted act or acts and uses. While it is agreed that some power may be fed back to the public power grid during high production periods, such green energy structures shall be limited to a capacity not higher than necessary to meet or exceed up to 20% at the time of installation, the power requirements for the permitted use in act. So if they're gonna put in a wind collector to run the pump, it can only be the required energy for that plus 20%.
Yep, and they need, right, so,
And we need to, and they need to ask.
yeah. The grantor is SVT and we're the grantee, is that how this is structured?
Trying to remember.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
So
yeah,
grantor
right.
is Town of Berlin, grantee would be the Sudbury Valley.
Would,
State
so
Program.
SVT would be the grantee, right? Because they will be holding it,
Yep, we
Okay.
own the land, right?
right, we own the land,
Yep.
Okay.
they'll hold the CR,
Okay. So
Right.
we need to get their written permission?
correct,
Okay.
yep.
Mm. Yeah.
Right, so, you know, but in their acceptance of this, I mean, we will certainly have conversations to make
Yeah.
sure they are well aware of the intentions.
Yep.
But in their acceptance of this, we will make sure that they're gonna be cool with us putting wells on, otherwise we're gonna have to figure out something different.
Yep.
So, the next section, I crossed the whole entire thing out because there are no houses on the property. There's no dwelling, there's no. And then we get into real boilerplate stuff. Compliance with permits, laws, and regulations. Everything that's done has to be done, following state, federal, local laws, rules, regulations, zoning permits, and the Constitution of the Commonwealth. The inclusion of any reserved right requiring a permit, license, or other approval from a state agency does not imply that the grantee or the Commonwealth takes any position whether such permit, license, or other approval should be issued. And then there's requirements about notifying the grantee, so if the town is going to do anything that needs approval from the grantee, these are the rules that must be followed. And then the grantee review. Where grantee's approval is required, grantee shall grant or withhold approval in writing within 60 days of receipt of grantor's request. Grantee's approval shall only be granted upon a showing that the proposed activity will minimize impacts to the conservation values and will not materially impair the purpose and/or conservation values. Grantee may require grantor to secure expert review and evaluation of a proposed activity by a mutually agreed upon party. Everybody good, clear on that? Grantee's failure to respond within 60 days of receipt shall, it says shall not, I actually crossed out not, constitute approval of the request. Grantor may subsequently submit the same or a similar request for approval.
That,
What?
that would make the 60 days completely,
Yeah, you just restart
Useless.
the process.
like,
Keep-
oh, we didn't
keep
respond, so
pressing
you
them.
just
Yeah.
have to do it again.
Yeah.
Which is why
Crossed
Yeah.
out not.
Crossed out.
crossed
Yeah.
out not.
Yeah.
It's like, if you care, you're gonna respond. If you don't care,
We're gonna
we're
do the
letting you
thing.
know what
Yeah.
we're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't care and you don't respond, we're gonna go ahead.
Yeah, that seems more reasonable.
Right.
So we're
And,
just gonna lose that last sentence then about
We're-
submit the same, or similar request for.
well, if they do respond, oh, that's just failure. Well, if they do respond and reject it, this says we can
Okay,
ask again.
okay.
and
It
keep-
also means if we fail to do it for, a calendar year, then we should probably resubmit anyway.
Inspection and enforcement, I mean, this stuff is all very
Yeah, so number 4 can probably get deleted, because there's only gonna be one grantee.
Okay. The grantor, so this says they can go and check things out anytime they want. Enforcement. So what does this say? Grayed out. The rights hereby granted shall include the right to enforce this conservation restriction by appropriate legal proceedings and obtain compensatory relief. And then including without limitations compensation for interim losses. Oh, I hate legal stuff. And public use service losses that occur from the date of the violation until the date of restoration.
We really aren't qualified to make
No,
judgments.
we're not.
I don't know, why don't we
I think this is
Right.
getting to the point where you need to hand it off to town
Yeah,
council.
Yeah,
I agree.
exactly.
Let
Okay,
them tell
so,
us
but
whether
Maddie
the
was
results
saying
were
number
this.
4, so, reimbursement of costs, if enforcement needs to happen, somebody gets reimbursed. Coordination between primary and secondary grantee. So who would be a secondary grantee?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, whenever there is a question of whether there is a violation of this conservation restriction or how to proceed addressing the violation, the primary grantee shall consult with the secondary grantee. Yeah, let's
Or
just
just
cross.
let council
Yep.
I
deal
think
with that.
the only
Yep.
time that would make sense would be if you had somebody who still owned the land and was putting
Yeah.
it into a CR,
Right,
so, which isn't the case here.
yep.
But I'm not aware.
Yeah.
Right, and then I crossed out the, B, grantors and grantees' right to recover proceeds. There's no money that is involved with SVT. So. Grantees,
Oh,
We're
you're on
talking
page
on
11.
Page 11.
article,
page 11.
B.
yeah, okay.
Yep. And then what is C? Grantees receipt of property right? Agree that the conveyance of this conservation shall give rise to real property right immediate and vested in the grantee. I know,
Again, I would let,
Yeah,
Yep.
I know this is kinda new, I think, and the
Yeah.
first time I saw it was on Mount Pisgah. And,
so basically what it's saying is that if the conservation restriction is released somehow,
Mhm.
then,
SVT owns the land.
well, shall be entitled to a portion of the proceeds. Whatever that means.
Okay, so
Right.
I think then like Mount Pisgah, where they would get 13%
Right.
if we were to sell it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and we agreed on that one because they did actually
They
put some,
contributed, yeah.
contribute some money there, yes. So, well, let's just cross that out and see what happens, they may put it back in. Cooperation regarding public action. Yeah, I think duration and assignability, I think we're over our heads here.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. So, on page 15, baseline documentation report, we had to get a baseline report for the purchase, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we need to locate that. So that, cause I know SVT will want that.
Yep.
If they are gonna get involved with this. And I don't wanna pay for another one.
Mhm.
All right, well, that is it. Everything else is, we'll attach a map, obviously, of what it is. There is an easement over, so 72 Carter Street, the house, needed all of the frontage to be a legal lot. And so we do have an easement over a corner of that lot. I'm sure language about that will go into here somehow as well. But yay, we did it.
Is that when we will put the sign? on the-
Yes, is on
okay.
the easement at the
Okay.
street, yeah, and we need to find out from the building inspector how far off the street it needs to be and,
Okay.
you
Yeah, I
know,
was
find
just
out,
wondering
yeah.
how big
Oh.
it can be and all that too. or is it
So
size, right?
Wayne Texera and I went around, I cut out some pieces of cardboard in kind of standard sign sizes, like 2 feet by 3 feet. I think I did 18 by 24, and then I did a bunch of smaller ones. We drove around town too, so we're looking at putting signs at 72 Carter, at the Lyman Road parking area, at the community garden fences, at the pickleball tennis court. I feel like there's one other that's not coming to mind at the moment. But, so we went and like held up the pieces of cardboard. Oh, the Bullard House is gonna have something too. To see, you know, kind of what size makes sense, and almost every place, the 2 by 3 seemed like the appropriate size. But we decided to go with the smaller, the 18 by 24, here, because it's in a neighborhood. You know, we don't want this big honkin', looks like a billboard thing.
Is there gonna be parking, or is it just?
Nope,
Alright.
but it will also help indicate the trailhead,
Right,
you know, for people who do wanna access the property.
gotcha.
And maybe we'll put a small kiosk or something too, but, yeah. So,
It's gonna be nice.
yeah, yeah.
Where would people park? Would they park like along the church?
They could
They
park
drove
there,
through.
or they could just park on the side of the road. I mean, from the house down towards, like towards the gas station, there's, I think, 2 houses down by the gas station, and the rest is kinda all undeveloped. And it's a quiet enough road where you could park on the side of the street. I don't expect too many people would be there at once anyway, so.
You never know.
Yeah.
Right, it's true. Awesome, well, yay, I'm very happy we did that. I also would like to find out from whoever, everybody, what the heck is going on with the Pisgah CR?
Oh.
And where is that? And we need to get going on it because, as a condition of CPA funds,
Mhm.
we need to have that CR.
Yep.
And, CPA just had to file their documentation recently.
Mhm.
Every year they have to file, you know, what projects are in process, what is happening with those projects. And I kinda got the hairy eyeball that we don't have a CR on that,
Mhm.
and kinda starting to get a hairy eyeball about this one too, so.
So which CR is that?
Mount Pisgah,
Mm.
the
The horseshoe
clam,
pond.
horseshoe pond,
Mm.
yep. Almost done, trail maintenance,
Okay.
take it away.
So, Rob Horn and I went around and did a bunch of clearing of down trees and stuff at Brewer Brook. Did discover that there was one tree that looks like it had been cut down
All right, you said
on
that.
conservation land by a neighbor at 162 Pleasant Street, I believe. So I wanted to ask the commission about how to approach that, but, yeah.
How big a tree is it?
It's a good size,
And what did they cut it down for? Is it a pine
No
or
idea.
oak or what?
No, it was, I couldn't really tell because it had lost all its leaves already.
Right.
And I'm not you, so.
I think it's a maple,
Yeah, it was probably a maple.
And it fell-
Came
You
down
looked
and,
at it?
and
I saw a
blocked
picture,
It came down and blocked the trail. Like,
right.
like
So
the crown was
they're
down
on
the
top
trail,
of the
so-
hill, they cut it down and it went
Oh, way over
down,
by the dam?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And it
But,
went down and across the trail.
yeah. I mean, you could still get through, but it became a little bit of a, you know, dodge and weave
I didn't
situation.
cut it out of the way because I figured it blocked bikers and stuff. So, no, I didn't. I know what you're talking about. I figured about dirt bikers, that's all I was thinking about. but,
Right,
it's
which,
not a big
which
deal.
is a problem on that side of,
Did you
Yeah.
move it out of there?
Yeah, we cut it
Yeah.
back. I mean, I hear you about the dirt bikers, but at the same time, like, you know, like to keep things relatively walkable.
I mean, I don't see it as an epidemic. The guy cut the tree down, it's kind of silly. I don't know what you'd ever do that for. It's down, you get it out of the way. It'll probably never happen again. I don't know, what do you wanna do, go after him or something?
I don't know.
The
I'm
bark's
just-
all off it and everything else, and it's pretty well decayed. It happened a long time ago, right?
I don't think so.
You're-
I mean, I think it might have been decayed already. It might have been standing
Oh,
and
okay.
rotted out.
I just assumed it fell over, I didn't realize it.
No, it definitely got cut, and it got cut within the last year.
I know some people on the trails, they do like to cut trees to keep, dirt bikes and stuff off the trails. They do it on purpose.
right.
I sincerely doubt that this person
You didn't do
is
it
one
like
of
that?
those, judging by the four-wheeler in their driveway.
Okay.
Just, could be wrong, but
Um,
that would be really hypocritical.
right, I mean, I guess, kinda to Walter's point,
Figure it.
if it happens again,
Then we
then
start
we'll,
worrying about it.
yeah,
Sure, that's fine.
yep.
So there was that. Rob Horn also contacted us about, there's a bridge over I don't know if that's a intermittent stream or if that's pretty permanent, but, there's a very sad bridge over at Lester Ross that really needs to be rebuilt.
I think I can pull pictures up. I should have
Um,
sent it to you for you to put on your fancy presentation.
And I guess my question about that situation is I understand that that's state land.
It is,
So
it's state land.
who's responsible for maintaining that, or who do we have to talk to
Nobody,
before?
people would put in without permissions, people
Okay.
just put it in there, it's there.
Okay.
It's state land, you know.
Right, so, but this is the state of it,
Right.
so,
I saw it,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it would need to be lengthened by probably 10 to 20 feet to get it to the point where it's not in a mud bog
Right,
on either side of that stream bed.
Something like down on Linden.
It definitely
where the
needs to be
houses,
I think so,
repaired.
but I
That
haven't
looked
been down there in a
familiar.
while.
Yeah.
I haven't either, but that looked familiar.
Yeah,
Um,
I've been over it a couple of times, but not recently. Rob was down there, I think. So, happy to do something about it, but I wanted to, you know, try to cross our Ts and dot our Is. But, or just do it,
Just do it.
which is what Walter was about to say.
right.
I was gonna do it and I didn't have time.
Yeah, I mean, there is a bridge there
Okay.
now,
Yeah,
and it is a hazard.
yep, okay,
Okay,
we'll take care of it.
all right, any other, oh, well, actually, good, you finish yours, but,
Yeah, it's all stuff I've talked about before, you know, additional work at Brewer Brook that, I'm gonna flag out and then get hopefully a work day or two going and publicize it on the, Berlin Neighbors Connect group via the Concom, account. And then after that, I wanna start going after Pisgah, cause it's a mess. So, especially once we get the Horseshoe Pond CR, and I was looking at some of the trails around there, and they're in pretty rough shape. There's some like really ugly crossings that could probably use bridges and stuff like that.
right,
so-
right, because it was private property for so long.
Yeah.
We couldn't really do anything with it.
Yep,
So Ethan and Rob Horn and I met up at Lyman Road, where we've talked for a long time about putting parking in. on the corner, right there where the driveway of the old house still is. I have reached out to SVT to see if they had any input. The woman who does the monitoring for that property was out of the office this week. She'll be back tomorrow.
Okay.
And the woman who is working on the CR was also out of the office. I think she came back like today or something, but I didn't hear from her. But Dan definitely had some, just some, I was trying to figure out what's the best surface to do. There is a paved semicircle driveway there right now.
It's actually, is there a strip of grass between that?
Yeah, there were, because that's where that big maple was.
Well, I know there was
in
like
the
a
middle.
circle, I just couldn't remember if it, yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk with them about how far in and how far down, but there's a big maple that's growing right in the middle of where the driveway was, and I think that should be our delineation. So from the maple to the street should kind of be our area.
Yeah.
And then we talked about, gravel or, grindings, is that
Yeah.
what they're called?
Yeah.
It's basically when they grind up the streets, then they can use that, as a surface. And so what Dan was saying is you put down the gravel to help the drainage.
Yeah.
And then you put the grindings over it, and so it's not really a paved surface, it's still pervious. And it still allows the site to drain, but it's not gravel that's gonna get mashed up when they plow it, and,
It sticks together a bit.
it sticks together a little bit, so it seems like that's probably the best and most cost-effective, and least maintenance, cause that was the other thing, we were trying to come up with something that didn't require a lot of maintenance over time.
Are we nixing the idea of using the existing driveway?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's too, it's kinda only in those places, like it doesn't go down any further either side.
Right.
Did you have Fred, come to talk with Fred about?
I have
for
not
that?
talked with him yet. I talked with Kristen about having the highway department do it, and she just responded today, and she's like, like, could be, so this is the other thing, is, I would like to put a CPA application in to fund this. And so, as part of that, we can pay the highway department. I'd rather pay, if we're gonna pay somebody, I'd rather pay the highway department to do the work.
Yeah.
So Kristen's like, let me find out how we do that. So, and then it's just buying the gravel and the grindings and finding out how to dispose of whatever we pull out of there. And then we talked about doing the same kind of, fence that we did up at, the easement further up on Linden Street. So, just something clean and simple.
Yeah.
And so the CPA application, the first iteration of it has to be in by November 1st.
Yep.
It can be modified as we go along, but we need to get that in by November 1st.
Okay.
So the application is on the CPA website. I don't know if you want me to kind of take the first stab and send you what I can't fill out, however.
I can take a stab at it. but,
Okay.
Do we need numbers on this stuff before we submit the application, or?
We'll get dinged for not having them, but we'll
we can
get
get the
more,
application
but
in.
we'll get more dinged if we
Okay.
don't get the application in.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get dinged for not having real
Yeah.
numbers than not having the application in.
I have literally not had time since last Wednesday to actually go over the emails that were exchanged, so, just a quick question, did SVT actually give us any information about the bounds of the parking area, or is it kind of?
No, so I read the CR as
Yeah.
it stands now, and there's no language about the bounds, it just
Okay.
says, see the picture
Okay.
attached. And the
Gotcha.
picture attached doesn't have any dimensions
Okay.
on it, it has just a rectangle.
Yep.
So, you know, I think we're better off erring on the side of smaller,
Yep.
at least, you know, front to back.
Sure. Yeah, keep it on the frontage, not going into the space.
Correct.
So are we gonna pull all the asphalt out that's there?
Yep.
All of it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
good. I feel better about that. If we're not gonna use it, we should definitely get
Yep.
it out of there.
Yep, 100%.
Cool, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I can take a stab at it, and then if we get numbers back from the town, that's gonna be the lion's share of it anyway.
Right, exactly.
So, do you wanna put me in touch with Fred so I can talk with him?
Sure.
Or do you wanna wait till we hear back about whether or not the town can do it?
Right, so Kristen, I emailed her yesterday, she responded today, I emailed her back tonight, so let's give it till the end of the week, and then I'll send an email to Fred, you know, with you on it, and
Okay.
get you guys talking, and,
Sounds good.
all right.
Cool.
Let me ask you this. Right now, as that stands there, go out the street, there's paved areas right now. There's lawn, there's flat areas there now. My guess is with a minimum amount of effort, there's a place to park 5 or 6 cars with no trouble at all.
That's what I was
Without
gonna
any,
ask.
maybe
how many
6 or
cars.
7. So my question is, why does it have to be, just minimum amount, mowing the grass, cleaning up, cutting some brush, and there's enough area right there, rather than to make it this big formal parking spot, and it just, it.
But
it's-
I think the reason we need to do that is if we don't make it a formal spot, the people are gonna start parking wherever they want.
They can't. There's
But they
trees
kinda
and
find a
shrubs,
wall,
there's
there's
a
a way.
stone wall there, there's trees
There's a
over
wellhead
here.
they can run
People
There's
into.
just a
can't park there anyway,
minimum
like-
area. You
Yeah.
can park without making a mountain out of a molehill.
I don't
just-
entirely disagree with that, I mean, I know I've parked over there to like walk on the aqueducts and stuff like that, like,
I think we're gonna get a lot more,
you think so?
I think we're gonna get a lot more traffic once it's clear that there's a trailhead there and
I agree.
that people are going in from, you have easy access from there to
But you
the
could,
horseshoe
yeah,
pond.
okay, and the train.
Right.
Right.
It's
There's
like-
also a wellhead right there, Walter, and we don't really
I
want
know
people
it.
driving into the
I've
wellhead.
been in the house
Right.
there,
Yep.
milk cows
I'm just
there,
putting that
I
out
know-
there,
I
just
know
putting
the
that out
area
there.
quite
I
well.
believe we have an abutter who would like to,
What was the town promised when the land was bought for parking? That's what you have to go back to. If part of that was, we will put in parking, we will put in a walking trail, you need to put in parking. So, cause that's what was promised to the town. That's why the town went, okay. You don't put that in,
Yeah,
guarantee you the next time you come back and say, we wanna, you're not gonna get the, okay. So
Yeah.
you have to go back and find out what was in that original
Right,
agreement.
and
it's not
I
just
believe.
SVT, we need to check the town documentation, and find out
Right.
what that agreement was.
And it was part of our application for the grant, for the MVP
Oh,
grant.
all right, so the grant,
You know what I mean?
Got
So
it.
like, we've said all along that we were going to do
Right.
something there.
And we're doing it with CPA funds, so it's not gonna cost us as the town or as
Right.
Conservation Commission anything.
And we're doing minimal,
Yeah.
you know, we're just
yeah, keep it minimal.
a rectangle with some fence and some gravel.
And enough room to like back out without, careening into traffic.
Correct.
But I do remember we put somewhere the ability to have handicap access, to have like a little trail.
Right.
For people too, so they would need some way, a place for that designated, I would assume. For that?
So
I don't know.
Ethan and
Yeah.
I, when we were there looking, it goes flat in for a while, and this maple that I keep referencing is kind of 2/3 back from the street. So we were then talking about and part of the driveway is behind that. So if we clean that up back there, we can have a little, I think in the application we called it a peace garden.
Right, I'm
you
remembering
know,
that,
yeah.
you're right.
You know, so we can do
Yeah.
something there, clean that up a little bit, have something, it won't be in the woods, but it will be on the edge of the woods, and it will be accessible, for people with mobility issues, and, you know, so, that was kind of what we came up with on the site. Yeah, but yes. Yeah, it's keeping our word.
Yeah. I mean, and we can assess, I haven't really walked that trail from that side yet, but, depending on what it's like, it's possible that we could make more of that accessible as well.
Right. Right, cause when we
So-
started walking down into the field,
Yeah.
that's relatively flat,
pretty
and so
flat.
maybe we could put some stone dust in there, to keep that more open and have something down there too.
Yep.
Yep.
All that brush and shrubbery and stuff in there, a few trees. That's just all grown up because it's not trafficked, it's just-
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's mostly young pines, you know, probably not more than 15 years old. And then just a lot of grasses mostly, and of course it springs up with all kinds of craziness during the summer, but
Yep.
lots of poison ivy,
Lots of bittersweet.
that too. I was trying not to talk about it.
I know. Yep. So yeah, so that's where all the trail stuff stands.
One other thing, on the trails, there's a place where this, where I built that bridge, then you go over to Brewer Brook, and the bridges and good trails around there, but between where I put that bridge in, about halfway over, where the large oak is, there's a stretch there of 100 feet that is just, in the springtime, impassable. If we needed any trail improvement, that's the place, and that's on town land.
Okay.
So that's farm, I would think that'd be more critical, a priority to deal with, rather than the Ross site. And on that, I've been communicating a little bit with DEM and see if we could get them, and I talked with our legislators when they were here, to see if we can get them to get the state to start to look at these two flood control projects. Seeing how they came into the town, took the land and everything, to at least develop them and manage them a little bit better for recreation and the trail. So I would leave that to them, but if you wanted to focus on something to put some effort into it, and I'll be glad to show that to you, but that area down there, then you could leave the center of town, there's parking area up there, and the whole area down there is beautiful, and it would be a, big addition.
Is that pretty wet down there? Or like damp? Is it damp there?
Where I'm talking about it is.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of invasives there, right?
Oh, the whole, oh, yeah.
So, if we need to buy some wetland seed mix, we could clean that out and use that. If we have 5 pounds of it, we might as well, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What are you thinking for improvements down there? Are there like rock armoring, bridging?
Oh, I know,
Rerouting.
you guys are the trail experts. I mean, if you wanna do some trail work,
Says the
there's
guy
a
who's
place to
done
do the
90%
trail
of the
work.
trail
right?
work in the town for like the
I mean,
last 30
I
or 40
built
years.
those bridges around Brewer Brook and
Uh-huh.
everything, and, some pretty extravagant ones, but I think it has to be a wooden, I don't know who did it up on Mount Pisgah between Ball Hill and Pisgah.
A Boy Scout. It was an Eagle Scout project.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's what we need, that's what's needed
Ball
over
Hill.
where I'm talking about, is some sort of a wooden,
Kind of a
walkway.
raised walkway.
I'll go over and look at it with you, but
I'm not sure
Yeah.
which bridge you're talking about.
I'll
and
show you.
I vaguely remember that.
Because
Yeah.
there's a one off, like, was it the Smith Road parking lot on the Metzner, bottom of the Metzner Trail, and then there's all the new stuff that we just put in.
oh, the bridge I'm talking about on Pisgah?
Yeah, no, it's up higher up by Maplewood.
Okay, I
Yeah,
don't think I know that.
cause I think
In
that's how
behind
they,
Maplewood,
I think
right.
that's how they went in. I think,
Okay, I gotcha.
they let them access,
Yeah, alright, I don't know that one.
Yeah.
then, 'cause,
But it's
yeah.
pretty, listen, it's just like what you did down there on
Yeah.
that bridge we put in, that's all.
Sure.
We need, you need to get some, we'll probably
Couple
get
of-
some telephone poles, or get some more pressure treated lumber. I'll see if I can get some more donated,
Yep.
and just put some in on stands and we at least,
I can get.
I don't
some
know if
from-
there are safety requirements, but you guys apparently have studied it, whether 3 feet or whatever's wide enough, cause some of it's gonna be, might be as much as 2 feet high on one side of it, like the one we did.
Yep,
So, but only longer,
yeah,
that's all.
okay,
Yeah.
But that's where
I'll take a look at it.
you could use a bridge and really put together a nice brochure, hiking brochure in Berlin, have it at the store, have it around. There is a place there from the center of Berlin and the corner of Pleasant, where it would make a nice launching place. And then further Pleasant Street, you get great parking there for the other end coming in.
Yep.
And then up where you are.
Yep.
So there's plenty, there's an area that you,
Access there.
that I recommend you focus on to develop it into a trail area.
then
And you
horses
could do
can get through
handicap
too.
people, you could have a
It's
handicap
not too
trail.
wet.
and
They do a
everything.
lot.
But it's still, that's pretty wet where he's talking
Yeah.
about, like.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't,
true.
right.
A
so-
lot
Yeah,
of
it's
people
mucky.
come down from the two stables up on top of the hill.
Right,
A lot of
I
people
know
ride
they
down
do,
from there,
yeah.
so,
Yep.
but, yeah, if it's gonna be, building a bridge that's actually usable by horses is a completely different
No,
animal.
no, I'm not asking that.
but-
I don't think the horses, I mean, you can, the whole place, first of all, the whole place, it's just all that tree of heaven. I forgot what the scientific name is for it, but the whole place is just invasive.
Yep.
The tree of heaven is invasive to begin with, very undesirable tree.
Yep.
And then the scraggly white pines, there isn't a good logging hole place, all choked together and tied together with bittersweet. It's terrible.
At
It's one of
least
the
the white
worst
pine is
invasive
native.
places I've
Right,
seen.
yeah, exactly.
But anyway, if you built the foot trail,
Yeah.
the horse trail doesn't have to be on the foot trail. You could make another trail up above very easily.
Yeah, sure.
Where it's dry.
Yeah.
But I
I'll
would
take a-
concentrate on getting a foot trail in there and let the horses worry about it afterwards.
Yeah, it's pretty mucky. I mean, I've walked and ridden through there, whether I'm supposed to or not, but I'll take a look at it.
Awesome.
Incidentally, just on that, these are American
Are
chestnuts.
they from there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Those are two chestnuts I planted several years ago, and I gotta figure out how to, I took some photographs of it, but for some reason my computer, everything's messed up, but I'll send you some photographs. These chestnuts, the limbs are falling, and then I went there this afternoon, and they're finally opening, and these are falling out of it. And the squirrels and everything are eating them up quicker.
Oh,
But
they must be
If you
loving
wanna
it.
get some, go get some, because they are really bearing. And then as you go down, heading out there, when you go down onto the field from Pleasant Street, all along the right, you'll see right cleared around black walnut trees. And so there's like 4 or 5 black walnuts. There's 2 really good ones that I liberated all around. Those are really bearing. And I was down there today and I noticed the squirrels and stuff might really get after it, because the hulls are there and the nuts are gone, but those there, the limbs are really hanging down. But the whole area is a very interesting, very diverse, you know, wetlands, uplands, all kinds of trees. And that would be, I think we should keep that in mind and think about that as our focus or our core or our central, whatever you wanna be, hiking area to develop in Berlin and tie it into the state land. It's right there, it's perfect for recreation. There's a historic site, used to be a mill, a grist mill. As you get over by the big oak, like when I was a kid, we had a swimming hole there. The dam was still enough, and we'd go over there swimming. Couldn't swim, we were wading around. And, but the foundation for the dam is, I mean, the mill is still there, so it's a great area.
Wonder
right
if we
there.
could find a picture of that and make a little plaque or something to put there.
But I can see, you know, really
Of the
putting together
grist
a
mill.
brochure for
It used
that
to be
area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Brewer Brook.
Yeah,
Historic.
of the,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, the Berlin Meadows there, and going over the Brewer Brook, a map. We do have a map of it, but it could be much more extravagant, actually a brochure. And I can see labeling the trees so people understand it, and it could be quite a nature trail. In fact, Heather, who takes the kids on the
Heather.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she does a great nature trail through there, the whole thing, it's perfect,
Well, SVT has that little brochure they have for like 40 caves.
yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It talks about like the, you know.
But anyway,
The geological,
habitat,
yep.
geologic features, stuff like that.
So,
Yep.
let's
Pretty
get
cool.
together, I'll
Put
show you,
something
we'll
like that.
talk about that trail. And then, other people here that want, if you want, we can really think about this in terms of over the course of a year or so, get together and actually put together a fold-out brochure for the place and everything, cause it's really good. And we get AJ to put his, garden down there, or the natives, and it's a good place down there.
Well,
You know, I
the
was gonna
idea of a
s-
peace garden came up here, why couldn't that be?
Where?
Oh, yeah, all natives, up
Yeah.
at Pisgah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
Yeah.
great.
absolutely, that would be great.
You'd want it where, yeah, you know, I thought by the black walnuts would be good, but I'm reading about black walnuts and you
Oh,
can't grow anything
you can't grow
on the
anything
black
near,
walnuts.
no, it's
You
true.
can grow, there's some things that will grow, but they're not, probably not gonna thrive.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
It-
even when wood turners turn walnut,
yeah,
a lot of people will then take their shavings and mulch areas where they don't want
Oh, is
anything
that
to
right?
grow with the shavings.
Ah,
Yeah,
I used to use my
Yep.
shavings in front of my beehives.
so I shouldn't have dumped all those
Keep all the
walnut
weeds down.
hulls in my garden then that I did today.
no, no,
I didn't.
you
I
better
dumped them down back in
get
the
cleaning them
brush
out.
pile.
Give you something to do for the weekend.
Picking them out.
All right, last thing, Maddie had, or there was some conversation with Gary finally.
Yep. Yep, so
About
Gary
Ager
did
Woods.
Gary
reach out.
lives.
Gary
He does.
lives.
So he's gonna work on providing us a timber sale work order. I expressed interest in like the Ager Woods area, like focusing on that area first, cause that's where I am doing the bird research, so it'd
Yep.
be nice to have the forest stewardship plan happen there first.
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
see changes, and I did express that, our abutters there,
Tom.
Tom, is interested in, you know, a patch cut, so I kinda
Mhm.
circled an area where
Awesome.
patch cut. So we'll see what he
So
says.
he-
He might
he's gonna-
disappear for a bit.
Right, hopefully it doesn't take him 6 months to
Yeah.
get us that.
So you got some action out of him.
Yep,
Did he reach out to you, or were you poking him again?
I
and-
poked him again.
Yeah. All right,
So
well,
we were gonna designate some, old growth areas.
Potentially, and then some areas where we're gonna clear up the canopy a bit
Yeah.
by about 25%, or do a full patch cut, so,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
or a little of both.
yep,
Yep,
Sounds good.
yep.
yep. Awesome. And when do you start
Oh, so
the
solid.
owls?
Owls are starting soon. I gotta actually figure that out, but we are now in October, so pretty much any time.
Does everybody know what we're talking about? No. Ethan, do you know what we're talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Just
Susan
checking.
is very excited.
Yes,
No.
Very excited.
yeah, it's awesome. Yep,
It's very cool, so.
all right.
Yep, we will be up at Ager Woods. I'm gonna aim to try to be a little bit more consistent and try to get out maybe at least three nights a week to do it, 3 or 4 nights.
To do what?
Get standardized on a saw-whet owl banding.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's,
Yep, so,
yeah.
Awesome. Well,
should be a good year. Everyone up north is reporting a lot of hatchier birds, which is a good indicator they had a really good productive year. So that'll turn into a lot more birds migrating in the fall, so
Nice.
hopefully.
Yay.
Yep.
Babies.
Yep.
There's my headlamp.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, get them charged up and.
Yep. Yeah,
I
super
got a sweet
excited.
headlamp.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Pick up
thank
the
you
glasses.
everyone for your
Ones that go with-
patience. I'm just
Neither one.
one time around the
No.
table.
I have one quick thing, just
Yep.
a quick update on the rail trail. We met, like, actually it was right before the last meeting, but we were, again, so late that I didn't wanna mention it. But anyway.
And I was gonna ask you about it at the last meeting, but yeah.
Yeah, so I did just wanna do a quick update. We met with VHB, Caleb and a few others joined. So they're getting started on the feasibility study. They're gonna get back out there and do a site walk again, and, so we'll follow up in a few weeks and see where we're at with that.
Did they give you any indication of when to expect the first kinda?
I think by the end of the year, we should have something, and, cause we were gonna try and, we need to go back to the select board to talk about the next phase, once we get through that. Because we didn't get approval to do the preliminary design. So if we're gonna move forward with that, which we do have the funds to do, we just need to go back to the select board and just make sure you guys are.
Email me and let me know, cause I set the agenda, so.
Yeah, so, you know, we sent them the report from the 2018 commission, just said, you know, you need to answer all these questions, and
Mhm.
we're trying to resolve as much of this as you can.
Perfect.
You know, they were aware of the area that was in question where it may need a boardwalk, so they know that that needs to be addressed, and so, yeah, so
Yeah.
hopefully we're gonna start seeing some movement.
Yeah,
Awesome.
just email me, let me know when you're ready and I'll get you on.
Okay, that sounds good, thank you.
Great. And you?
No, good.
Anything?
No.
What? Anybody else? Going once? Going twice?
I will make a motion at 9:02 PM to end the meeting.
Second.
I did it right that
As
time.
Mr. Wheeler says, that's non-debatable. All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Good job, guys. Very productive meeting.
Hey, Walter, where'd you get that piece of grapevine?
Oh, there's more there, right down there in,
Berlin Meadows?
yeah, there's some more there.
Have a good
I
night.
took it in the shop today.
Can I, Robin?
Might not be a bad idea.
Where it,
When I get back, I'm
Come down
gonna
Pleasant Street.
make
You can
something
just like,
right away.
Pleasant Street
Oh,
is the center of town.
Well, happy birthday.
Jane Sawyer's
Take that?
little garden.
I don't know what else we're gonna do with them.
all right, well, I think I'm full to one of them back.
I think in the summertime,
Yeah.
we're
That
talking
bucket was nice.
about
Yeah.
making a park, that
I'll
would
see
be
you
great.
tomorrow.
That would be really lovely.
Randy, I'll bring those poles over for you.
Okay.
I also talked with the woman who was here presenting.
I'll do it early 30 in the morning, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's Kristen. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
do that.